This is Algebra 1, Lesson 11C, Identifying Multiplication and Addition. Students usually have a hard time when they first start doing this lesson trying to figure out, when am I looking at this symbol as a minus, when am I looking at it as an opposite, or when am I looking at it as a negative? Okay, and that's a good question to ask. We've talked about that in a previous video, but we haven't done anything quite like this where you have a lot of symbols together. So the book gives you some advice, and they say if there's no plus or minus sign between the symbols, then it's a multiplication. So here's what they mean. This is not a multiplication. It's just a 4 there by itself, right? And we can bring down this subtract, but do you see how this 3 is next to the 5? With no symbol in between them, between the parenthesis and the 3, well, that would mean I need to multiply those. So let's go ahead and do that. And then I keep copying things down, and then I see this 7 is up against here. And you may say, well, there's a symbol in there. Well, yes, but the 7 is up against the parenthesis with no symbol in between the 7 and the parenthesis. So it's the same case as this previous one. So I'm going to multiply 7 times 6 and get 42. But because of this negative, this positive 7 times this negative 6 would be negative 42. So I want you to notice here that we had this negative already here. I'm going to highlight it. This minus was already here, or if you want to think of it as a negative. And then this is also here. The positive times the negative. So that's why you end up with 2 of them here. And that's kind of tricky. All right, here we keep going. We're going to copy down this minus sign. And we can do this, multiplication. 4 times 5 is 20, but a positive times a negative is a negative. So negative 20. Okay? For these, it's really helpful to check as you go. Do a little and then check yourself. Okay, to see if you're making errors. All right, now we need to simplify this a little bit. I'm going to go back to one of the strategies they mentioned when we first started doing the positive and negatives, and I'm going to circle each kind of number with the signs that are in front of it, and we're going to simplify each thing. 4 is as simplified as it can get. I'm going to insert a plus sign and think of this as a negative 15. And then I'm going to insert a plus sign. And we know when we have this, 2 of those symbols, we think of it as the opposite of negative 42, which would just be positive 42. And then I'm going to insert a plus sign. And again, I have the opposite of negative 20, which would be a positive 20. Okay? So if you need this step where you circle them, by all means do that. And then take a second to simplify it. Okay, now I would like to combine all my positives. 4 and 42 would be 46. And then you add 20 to that, and that'd be 66. Now we're going to bring down the plus the negative 15. Now I've got positives, and then I've got negatives. So I'm going to subtract their absolute values. And 66 minus 15 would be 51. So this is going to equal 51, and I take the sign of the one that has the largest absolute value, which is the 66. So it's going to be positive 51.